I've got what I think is truly a revolutionary, game-changing device from Bad Cat amplifiers. These guys have put in, I first heard about this thing in January of 2012, so a year and a half of development after they debuted at NAMM. I mean, shows real dedication with no guaranteed payoff. But what they've come up with is something that's it's new. It solves a couple problems that have been problems for, you know, the 50+ years of electric guitar history. So what the heck am I talking about? All right. So problem number one is, for years I ran a 2-amp rig live, and one of the nice things about doing that is that you can run a wet dry, and I did. But another thing you can do is you can, if you're running, especially if you're running identical amps, you can go from one amp to the other and actually increase your stage volume if you want to. Now the thing is, you know, generally all the years that I ran a 2-amp live rig, my rig was always mic'd and always running through a big PA, so that was never an issue. It was up to the sound man to turn up my leads, and you know, we had our own sound man, and he knew when to do that and how to do it efficiently and effectively, and that was great. But for the last 2 years or so, I have culled my rig, my live rig, down to a single 4x12 footprint with a single amp head, and I've tried for 2 years to figure out a way, especially when we play smaller clubs now that where my cabinet's not mic'd, how do I keep a sane, reasonable rhythm guitar volume and yet still somehow boost my volume for lead solos while retaining tone and the idiosyncrasies of the amp, which I personally run these old Buddas and I love them. I mean, I love the amps, so I don't want to change the tonal signature at all. You know, your guitar is gonna react different. I'm gonna hear things, you know, the way the interplay, if I'm pushing more air or less air, or, you know, the speaker cones are flexing more, those physical attributes, you can't change those, but the actual tone coming out of the head. All right, so Bad Cat came up with this little doohickey right here. It weighs like, I don't know, a pound. It's very small, it's lightweight, and it's called the Unleash. And it's built to do two things, basically. It can take a very small amplifier and it passes it through a 100-watt amplifier, and it'll drive a 4x12 cabinet at club volumes. I mean, full tilt, 5-watt amp, no problem. But that's not my problem. That's not my issue. I don't play 5-watt lunchbox amps. I don't like them, never have. I know they're trendy. Not my thing. I use Budda SD45, an early one, live on stage, and that's basically it's Jeff Bober's take on the Marshall JTM 45 modified. Anyway. I love that amp. So what the Bad Cat does for me is it allows me to be playing at a reasonable rhythm volume go to solo, I get this, and depending on where I've got it set, you're going to hear that it, alright, watch. like. You could just, for purposes of demonstration, let me show you here. I've got channel 1 set at 9 o'clock, and I've got channel 2 set at 12 o'clock. So pretty significant. So you hear. So okay, now I'm gonna dime the guitar. I mean, this is killer. Nothing else can do this, as far as I know. At least nothing I ever found. Alright, so that's the standard way that I'm using the Bad Cat. But this also solves another problem that is huge. I mean, an insoluble issue. And the issue is, alright, the issue is reverb. Well, at any time unit, I suppose, but reverb is my big problem. Okay, so let's say that I'm playing. There's 3 places you can insert an effect. You can insert it in line before the amplifier, before the preamp section, into the effects loop of the amp, which is in between the preamp section and the power section, or after the power section. Except I had no way ever to do that. This gives you a way to do that. There's an effects loop on the back of this thing. And so let me show you the problem first real quick. Here's alright, this is well, alright, so here's, I've oversaturated a little bit with my digital reverb slab in the front of the amp just to show you what the problem is. So here, let's say that's the amount of reverb I wanted. Well, the problem is, when you hit it with some gain, the reverb gets bigger too. All of a sudden I'm Dick Dale. This is not cool. So, I don't like the way it really sounds when I insert it in the effects loop. So I was on the cusp, on the verge of setting up multiple reverbs at different settings and just using them depending on how much gain I was applying. Now I don't have to do that. I've got my trusty old 63 Fender reverb sitting here, and this is inserted into the loop of the Bad Cat. And the beautiful thing, now I'm dry now. Let me kick in. I just put EQ on the front end just for the heck of it. Alright, so here, now I'm going to add this in. Alright, now here's the thing. And that's more than I would use, actually, of course, but just so you can hear it. Alright, but if I kick this thing into high gear, the reverb didn't increase. I didn't turn into the Ventures. I didn't become Dick Dale. So you can hear the decay. And then lower volume, lower gain. The reverb stays exactly the same because it's after the fact. It's after the power section. That to me is it's a game changer. It's incredible. Thank you, guys at Bad Cat. that's how I'm using my Bad Cat, and there's still a lot of experimenting to be done. I've owned it for exactly 48 hours. Yeah.